Hey peoples, this is another movie review of All the Bright Places on Netflix. So this story has two main characters. One of our main characters is Violet. Violet's sister recently died in a car accident, and Violet has been very depressed about it. It's affecting her family life and social life, and just her interactions with people in general. Then one day a guy named Finch pops up in her life, and he tries to get her out of her depressing mood. Now Finch has some issues of his own, but we'll talk about that later, but that's pretty much the movie. So I want to start off talking about my favorite part of the film, which is Violet, played by Ellie Fanning. She did an absolutely incredible job. She was my favorite character in the whole movie. I like the fact that they pulled off the I don't care attitude very well. The simple fact that you understand that she feels annoyed and exhausted just to be around Finch in the beginning of the film. I just love that part. And one of my favorite scenes is the first time we actually get to see Violet laugh. After a few moments of laughing, she stops herself and returns to her somber mood, and Finch says, "It's okay, you know, you're not going to hell for laughing." And I really enjoy that line because it defines the character so well. Violet feels like feeling joy and having fun is kind of an insult to her sister's death. How can she go on and be happy when her sister has passed away? A lot of people feel like this when people have passed away in their lives, and I like how they displayed that on screen. But now let's talk about Finch. They do a good job of pull off the charming, caring, carefree attitude very well, also being a defensive jerk at times, but somehow making it so we don't dislike him for being that way. Unfortunately, even though this character has a lot going on in his life, I feel like the movie doesn't give him enough to do. For most of the movie, we are closed off from his world and we don't get any type of answers until the end of the film, but I'll talk more about that later. The last person I want to talk about is Finch's sister. I really wish we got more scenes with Finch and his sister because they talk about the bond that they have, but I believe in the movie we only get maybe 4 scenes with them together, and in order to show a bond they just show that they have this cool little handshake, and that's supposed to mean closeness, but I would have preferred a lot more scenes. Especially because they seem to care about each other, but during parts of the film, the sister seems lackadaisical when her brother is definitely going through stuff. We don't see her being active in trying to help him. She just seems to let stuff happen, and that was kind of disappointing. But moving on, I want to dive deeper into the story, because at the beginning of the movie, I think they do a great job of sucking you in. You want to know more about these characters, you want to engage with these characters, but certain constructual issues with the story bothered me. For instance, I was kind of disappointed that the scenes ended where they ended. I wanted to see more because they would just end. Near the beginning of the film, we have Violet and Finch walking down the street, and he walks her home, and you see that whole interaction taking place. And they end the scene with them saying goodbye. But then other days we see them set off on adventures at the beginning of the day, but we don't see how that day ends. They'll show a nice scene or a cute scene or a funny scene, and then it'll just clip and stop, and then we go to the next day. Now the reason this is so annoying to me is because these characters are bonding. The whole beginning of the movie is about their interactions with each other and their conversations. And one thing they do at the beginning of the movie that I really liked is that when they were riding their bikes and you see them traveling, we get voiceover of their conversation. The problem is they only do that one time in the movie. I don't understand why. They travel multiple times in this movie to different destinations, and they're riding their bikes or they're walking, but it's just silence. It felt like the movie was missing out on potential conversations that would help that relationship build and also help us as an audience connect more with those characters. Another weird constructual thing in the movie is that every scene doesn't flow seamlessly into the next scene. For instance, we'll see Finch walk out of his house and go running down the street, and on his face it looks like he gets a bright idea, and then it just cuts to the next morning where he's laying on Violet's lawn. At another point, Violet is sitting next to a lake, and then it cuts to where she's in her room just staring at the wall, it seems like, and that lasts for about 30 seconds, and then the next scene cuts to her standing in the kitchen the next morning and her dad walks in the door. It feels abrupt, and I just wish things would have transitioned a little bit more smoother. And my one last issue with the construction of the film, I hate montages. That's just going to be a general thing that I seem to hate in movies. When you give the audience a montage, we miss out on that character bonding. The characters in the movie love the montage because they're actually living it. Us as the viewer, we don't get to experience that montage. One scene in the montage that they show is that Violet has already met Finch's friends and they're hanging out, and I'm like, no, I wanted to see that interaction. Audiences do not remember montages after a movie. They remember moments. Moments where characters are interacting one-on-one, not music playing over scenes and stuff is just happening. No one remembers that stuff, so I hate when movies do it. But moving on, now I want to talk about my issue with the actual story of the film. Like I said earlier, Finch has some issues of its own, but I was very annoyed that the movie takes so long to get to any answers about Finch. The movie shows us weird actions that he does, but we never get any full clarification about why he does them. I checked the time while I was watching the movie and it was like 51 minutes had passed before we got any deeper information about Finch. There are rumors about him in school. He writes on a bunch of sticky notes and sticks them around his room and in his car, and they don't fully explain that. And what's most annoying is that Violet doesn't ask. And I just kept yelling at her the whole film. Ask him about the sticky notes. Ask him about the rumors at school. Tell us more information. It was a one-sided relationship, and it bothered me that the characters moved so fast and Finch kept asking Violet questions and Violet kept answering them and revealing more about herself, but she never ever asked him questions back. If you care about somebody and love them, you want to know more about them, why not ask little questions here and there? The 2 or 3 questions she did ask, he would just dodge them, but she never pressed more, which I guess I kinda understand, but I feel like the movie just took too long to get to any answers whatsoever. And I believe the movie had time to actually give us more answers. There's scenes where we see Finch just sitting by himself looking off into the distance. Those could have been cut out and we could have got actual dialogue between him and another character explaining how he feels, what he's going through, and how he became this way. There is a backstory to this. The movie starts off with showing us how Violet is, her emotions, her actions, how she's interacting with other people, and you know it's directly connected to her sister's death. With Finch, we don't fully understand what his issues are, and we never get an actual explanation. We just get speculation and him wondering, does it connect to someone else in his life? But that's about it. I wish the movie would have took one of 2 paths. Either show us the audience everything about Finch and then Violet never gets to see that side of him and we know all the information and she's in the dark just so that we feel like we're clued in. Or the other option, just keep us completely in the dark. Don't show us anything about Finch's life or him sitting alone in the dark, any scenes by himself. Leave us all in the dark and let us just see through Violet's eyes of just wondering what the heck's going on with this guy. I would have took that. It would have cut out unnecessary scenes and given us more scenes of her just wondering and figuring out what's going on with him. So I'm watching the movie and I'm getting frustrated that we're not getting answers, but finally, when there's only about 25 minutes left in the film, we get some type of information about Finch's mental status. And there we go. And it was so frustrating that it took so long. We're supposed to be falling in love with these characters as they reveal themselves to us, but half of the relationship never gets revelation, but the movie keeps hinting at us that we will get answers, but we never do. But that was my main gripe with the film. A couple other random thoughts is that I really like the score of the film. I really wish there was more Keegan-Michael Key. If you're gonna put Keegan-Michael Key in a movie, he should be in at least 40 to 45% of the movie. The man's amazing. Also, there's a line where Violet says, "I'm better now," and she's talking to her father after revealing some dark things about herself, and he just seemed to take it like, oh, okay, that's good. And I thought that was kind of funny because I was like, why is no one going to therapy in this movie? Specifically Violet and her parents, they need to go to therapy. They need some help. And I kind of wish the movie would address that issue. But anyway, overall, I really did enjoy the acting by the leads, and I really did like getting sucked into their relationship. But eventually it transitioned from being engaging to being frustrating because I never got the answers for the questions that the movie proposed to me. So because of that, it transitioned from a movie that I go to the theater and watch and maybe pay matinee price to a movie that just becomes background noise while I do some chores in my house. But that's it, people. Comment below if you've seen this movie, let me know what you thought. I'm sure there are a lot of you that disagree with me because I believe this was based off of a book and people seem to like this movie a lot. I'm not saying I disliked it, I just don't like specific aspects of it, so let me know what you thought down in the comments. To all the people who have subscribed recently, I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Please continue to have a great day. God bless. I'll talk to you later.